Hello, I am Tae-soo Kim from the Icon Marketing Research Institute. Today I will deliver a lecture on agricultural distribution, especially on local distribution such as basic knowledge, function, and related policy measures. Today's lecture is divided into two parts, the basics of agricultural distribution and the functions of distribution in production areas. In the basics of agricultural distribution, I will tell you why agricultural distribution should be explained separately from general distribution for industrial products. Also, I will explain how the local distribution functions for agricultural products. Through this, I will introduce various policies to solve the problems of farmers and the price surge or collapse due to the imbalance between the supply and demand of agricultural products. Let me first explain the definition and concept of agricultural distribution. Agricultural distribution refers to the entire process from the time agricultural products leave the hands of farmers to the time consumers purchase them. In this process, distribution performs various functions, mainly 5 functions to narrow the space, time, ownership, quality, and quantity gaps that exist between producers and consumers. In general, distribution activities are divided into 3 categories: commercial, physical, and information distribution. There was no information distribution in the past. However, since the online environment developed and data became important, information distribution has been emphasized. Commercial distribution refers to the change of title through product exchange. It includes marketing activities such as promotion and pricing related to the title change. Physical distribution refers to the physical flow of goods. It includes transport, storage, processing, and unloading activities in the process of delivering goods to a new owner after a transaction between a producer and a consumer or distributor. Information distribution refers to collecting and analyzing information about producers, distributors, product production, consumption, and distribution and providing them to clients. The distribution information includes various data such as buyer characteristics, seasonal yields, selling prices, and willingness to pay. You also need to understand the concept of distributors. The distributors are divided into direct distributors and distribution facilitators. Direct distributors refer to direct participants in product transactions such as producers, dealers, wholesalers, retailers, and consumers. The distribution facilitators include entities supporting commercial and physical distributions such as government, packaging, transportation, storage, processing, warehousing, and unloading companies, banks and insurance companies, marketing and advertising companies, and so on. This slide shows you the flow of distribution. I explained the functions and activities of distribution before. The flow of distribution refers to a flow of title change, logistics, promotional activities, purchase payment, and distribution information. When a producer sells products, the title is transferred to whoever purchases them: wholesaler, retailer, and consumer. As the title is transferred to the buyer, the physical flow also has the same flow. Because marketing activities such as sales promotion are also directed toward those who are willing to pay, the title, physical flow, and marketing activities flow from producers to consumers, whereas the selling purchase payment flows reversely from consumers to producers. However, distribution information flows in both directions between producers and consumers. Consumers who want to purchase goods want to know various information about a production area, producer, price, and quality to purchase better products at a good price. Producers want information about what products consumers want, at what price, and with which quality. Middlemen between consumers and producers, such as wholesalers and retailers, want to obtain information about producers and consumers. Thus, the information flow is a two-way flow. In this slide, I will talk about distribution channels and distribution levels. The distribution channel is a path through which the title of goods is transferred. Producers sell agricultural products to the wholesale market and large retailers or through direct sales. The distribution level refers to a number of middlemen until goods and their titles are transferred. As shown in the figure, zero-level channel indicates direct transaction between producers and consumers without middlemen. In a one-level channel, there is only one distributor, such as a retailer or wholesaler between producers and consumers. The distribution channels and levels are meaningful because distribution efficiency varies depending on how many levels products should pass. That is, distribution costs differ according to a distribution channel and the number of middlemen. This slide explains the characteristics of the agricultural distribution. Agricultural distribution refers to a series of processes leading to the consumer market, including the production and harvesting of agricultural products, selection and packaging, and post-harvest management. Especially the agricultural distribution is divided into distribution in production areas and consumption areas. This reflects a large number of producers and commercial characteristics of agricultural products. These characteristics differentiate agricultural distribution from the general distribution. To discuss the agricultural distribution and distribution in production areas, let's first look at 5 commercial characteristics of agricultural products. First, they are bulky and heavy and uneven. Compared to their value, they are bulky and heavy, and it costs a lot of transport or store them. In addition, since the quality and size of the agricultural products are not even, standardization and grading are difficult. Second is the seasonality of production. Production is seasonal, but consumption occurs year-round, so storage is important. A large amount of release during the harvest season causes a price to drop. Third, they are highly perishable. Agricultural products are high in moisture, which means they are less durable and prone to spoilage or damage. Therefore, special facilities such as cold warehouses are required to prevent spoilage during storage and transportation. Fourth, their diverse usage. Their usage can be easily changed according to the situation, and they are highly substitutable. You can easily change their use of shape depending on how you eat or cook and easily replace one with another. Fifth, they have inelastic supply and demand. The demand changes a little by income change, and the supply is also difficult to be controlled because arable land is fixed. In other words, it's not like you eat one bowl of rice when your income is low and eat 2 or 3 bowls of rice when you earn more. Also, it's difficult to increase the supply upon price surge. Due to these 5 commercial characteristics, agricultural products have high collection and distribution costs and require multiple level distribution. That is why the agricultural distribution is defined separately from general distribution, and the distribution in production areas is one of the policy targets. This slide shows changes in the agricultural distribution channels. I explained the distribution channels before. The agricultural distribution in Korea is divided in the traditional distribution channel through wholesale markets and the new distribution channel through large retailers. This new distribution channel emerged in the late 1990s and has served as a new agricultural distribution channel. The new distribution channel reflected new consumption trends such as increased national income and single or two-person households and convenient consumption, and has taken the lead in the domestic agricultural market with small packaging units and by grading and upgrading agricultural products. For sure, the online distribution industry has been rapidly growing and slowing down the growth of large retailers, but the emergence and concept of new distribution channels still matter. To simply compare the new distribution channel to the traditional one, it reduced distribution levels and expanded commercialized functions. Due to the characteristics of agricultural products such as high perishability and unevenness, the agricultural distribution has a multi-level structure with complicated distribution steps. This is because the agricultural products are released in large quantities and are perishable, and you need to move them to the next distribution level as quickly as possible. To deliver products quickly in the freshest possible condition, there should be many distributors who are willing to buy at a risk of reduced product quality due to spoilage. As a result, the agricultural products go to wholesale markets where many distributors flock. Also, an auction system was introduced and operated for the faster transaction of agricultural products collected from all over the country. These made the wholesale market the center of agricultural trades and distribution levels complicated. Thus, in the traditional distribution channel, products are quickly traded in the wholesale market by intermediary wholesalers who are willing to take spoilage risks and are sold to wholesalers and retailers outside the market. In the new distribution channel, the APC in production areas or synthesis distribution centers and consumption areas store agricultural products and carry out commercialization processes like sorting and packaging. It is more systematic and reduces distribution levels compared to the traditional channel. In the previous slide, we looked at the new and traditional distribution channels in terms of the distribution channel. In this slide, we will compare the two channels in terms of the distribution system. First, the new distribution system has characteristics of a vertical distribution channel. In the vertical channel, producers and distributors are exclusively affiliated. Producers have predetermined main clients and continuously supply the quality and quantity desired by these clients. That's why it was named the new distribution channel, because it has various characteristics that go beyond a simple change in the distribution channel. Compared to the traditional distribution channel or system through the wholesale market, the new distribution system reduces distribution margins and improves price stability by stabilizing the product price that used to fluctuate depending on the market price. As explained, the distribution levels are reduced if the channel goes through synthesis, distribution centers, or large retailers. Because products are released after sorting and packaging, you can use the ULS with a pallet loading unit and reduce logistics costs through the mechanization of loading and transporting, thereby reducing distribution margins. Reducing distribution margins is very important to improve distribution efficiency. The more the distribution level, the larger the distribution margin. That's why we try to reduce distribution levels in agricultural distribution. Also, large retailers purchase agricultural products directly from production areas, not through the wholesale market, so they can adjust the price twice a week and predict the purchase quantity in advance, thereby bringing the stability of the product price compared to the wholesale market. In the new distribution system, new and large retailers maintain a long-term exclusive trading partnership that decides transaction volume on a monthly or seasonal basis, so the transaction cost is also reduced compared to the traditional distribution system in the wholesale market. I know that there are retailers in large cities like Phnom Penh, the capital of Cambodia. I presume many of these would be foreign multinational companies. By resolving shortcomings and limitations of the traditional distribution channel and discovering new consumer needs to lead the commercialization of agricultural products, I think Cambodia's agricultural distribution system will be modernized and developed. However, because there are many agricultural producers and their bargaining power is weak, they may become subordinate to large retailers. Retailers have the right to decide the price and they will try to buy products of the quality and grade they want. We need to make efforts to remedy these side effects. In Korea, agricultural products have established APCs in production areas that sort, pack, and grade agricultural products under the banner of Production Area Organization and Farmhouse Organization to counteract the side effects caused by large wholesale and retailer companies. I think Cambodia also needs to make an effort to balance the unequal power between producers and retailers. From this perspective, I think now you understand why we separate agricultural distribution from general distribution and why the distribution in production areas is necessary. From this slide, we'll look at the functions of distribution in production areas. There are 4 functions. First, handling of agricultural products, production supply control, physical facilitation, and commercialization. The first handling of agricultural products includes sales before harvest, production contracts, joint sales in production areas, sales after harvest, and so on. The production supply control includes vegetable supply and demand stabilization programs, disposal and production areas, marketing agreement, and marketing orders. The physical facilitation covers logistics-related functions like storage, transportation, and processing. The commercialization includes branding and standardization. We'll go over each in detail on the next slide. Now let's look at the flow of distribution in production areas. It refers to the release or sale of agricultural products to APCs in production areas, dealers and farmers markets by producers who sow, cultivate, harvest, and commercialize agricultural products. So the first step is agricultural products grown by farmers. Wholesale distribution refers to processing or commercializing agricultural products purchased or entrusted from producers and transferring them to the wholesale level through various distribution channels, such as wholesale market and large distributors. Government policies are mainly focused on production and distribution in production areas because they are related to producers, the management, supervision, and support for the distribution entities, and actions in production areas directly affect the income of farmers. At the wholesale and retail levels, policies target consumers rather than producers and focus on price control. That's why I explained the distribution of production areas separately. I have been stressing the functions of distribution in production areas because it supports price stability and income improvement for producers. This figure shows the estimated distribution amount of horticultural products excluding grains, including rice in Korea. Because there is no official government statistics, our research institute came up with an estimate for 2019 at the request of the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. The gross production value of Korea's horticultural products is about KRW 21 trillion, about KRW 17 trillion from the domestic market, and KRW 3 trillion from imports. The distribution amount in production areas is around KRW 18 trillion, KRW 5 trillion from distributors in production areas, and KRW 18 trillion from the NACF and agricultural corporations. Although the wholesale market deals with KRW 13 trillion, the amount released directly from producers is less than KRW 2 trillion. The rest has reached the wholesale market through other distribution channels of distributors and distribution entities in production areas. This is also the reason why the government should establish a separate distribution policy for production areas. The first handling of agricultural products can be defined as the primary transaction between producers and dealers, or producers and entities before and after sowing, before and after harvest. The trading methods between producers and dealers or producers and entities include sales before harvest, production contracts, sales after harvest, and joint sales in production areas. The sale before harvest is also called the sale per field or pre-harvest sales of crops. It is often used for items that are bulky and difficult to store with price fluctuation due to release in large quantities and items requiring a lot of manpower for a single harvest. Accordingly, it is mainly done for vegetables such as radish, Chinese cabbage, carrot, cabbage, green onion, and onion. In the past, dealers used to visit orchards when fruits like apples, pears, and persimmons are not harvested yet, but now it has almost disappeared. The production contract refers to making verbal or written contracts for a sales channels, quality, price between a producer and a purchaser like retailers, wholesalers, and NACF before sowing or after sowing before harvest. A stricter production contract controls the production method and quantity with detailed conditions on the supply of production materials and quality and quantity of goods and the form of compensation to the producer. The sale after harvest is also called door-to-door sales or warehouse sales. Farm produce is stored in warehouses after harvest and sold to visiting dealers. It is mainly made for vegetables such as red pepper and garlic, and fruits such as apples, pears, and tangerines, which can be stored. Joint sale in production areas refer to selling products to intermediary wholesalers through auctions or joint sales under the leadership of producer groups or private entities in main production areas during the peak season. Joint sales for red pepper take place during the peak season of September and October in main production areas such as Jeongup, Yeonggwang, Yeongyang, and Imsil, and joint sales for garlic take place during the peak season for May, July in main production areas like Gohung, Namhae, Muan, and Changryong. In Gochang, the main producing area of watermelon, the joint sales are done by not only the NACF but also by private entities. Famous joint sales include Changnyeon's onions and cucumber market, Jinyang's sweet persimmon market, and Seongju's watermelon market. Among the functions, the production supply control function refers to the control of production items and quantity in response to price fluctuations. It controls the sales volume, period, region, and market according to the level of price fluctuations in response to oversupply or undersupply after production, thereby promoting price stability of agricultural products and stabilization of supply and demand. In Korea, we have implemented a policy to control production and supply through the Production Release Agreement Program and the Vegetable Supply and Demand Stabilization Program for vegetables that have severe price instability caused by extreme yield fluctuations upon weather conditions like drought or heavy rain. The Production Release Agreement Program was introduced in the early 1990s. Farms made agreements with the government through the NACR on production areas, release period, and quantity for major season vegetables such as red pepper, garlic, and onions, and the government provided benefits like preferential purchase or guarantee of the low-end rice. This program was suspended as the Vegetable Supply and Demand Stabilization Program was introduced. The Vegetable Supply and Demand Stabilization Program controls the cultivation area, release area, and quantity through production contracts with producer groups including the NACF on major vegetables such as pepper, garlic, onion, radish, cabbage and carrot, and control supply through disposal in production areas. The Production Release Agreement program is to preserve prices, while the Vegetable Supply and Demand Stabilization program is to maintain prices. Another production supply control measure is the Marketing Order and Marketing Agreement stipulated by the Act on Distribution and Price Stabilization of Agricultural and Fishery Products when it was raised in 1990. This self-help program supports farm income by keeping the price that farms receive constant under the government's marketing order by controlling the sales of agricultural products upon overproduction through contracts between producer groups and distribution entities in production areas. Still, there are side effects such as free riding that non-participating farms also benefit from the program and the release of non-standard products through mixing with non-standard products, a false indication of grades, and so on. Now, let's take a closer look at the marketing order. The marketing order and marketing agreement are very similar in purpose and implementation. Both are self-help programs for producers that regulate the production quantity through consultation with producer groups when prices are expected to plummet due to overproduction. However, the marketing order has a more complicated procedure and wider scope compared to the marketing agreement. While the marketing agreement is voluntarily made by producers of a certain item, the marketing order can be implemented when more than two-thirds of producers agree and the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs approves. This is to prevent side effects like consumer damage due to price surge caused by decreased supply when producers unreasonably interpret the nationwide supply and control their quantity. On the other hand, the marketing agreement is made between producers and consumers, and there is no separate permission or restriction. Producers can ask the government to compulsorily regulate production and release quantity, and the competent minister issues the order after reviewing conditions like the consumer market. As I mentioned, the government should identify that there is a serious oversupply to the extent that the marketing order is necessary. In the marketing order, there are price regulations like setting the lowest price for agricultural products, determining sales quantity quota per producer, allocating the market, or designating the timing of the sale. Also, the government can reduce the quantity in the market by regulating the quality, such as grade, size, sugar content, and color. In addition to the short-term quantity, price, and quality regulations, there are market support activities. These include activities to enhance the rights and awareness of producers and promote consumption, such as standardization of packaging standards, research on production and processing, consumption promotion and advertising, market information collection and provision, obligation and indicate price, and prohibition of unfair trade. To implement the marketing order, the members should produce more than 60% of the total production of a certain item, and more than two-thirds of the corresponding producer group should agree to it. Only then the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs will approve the marketing order in consultation with the Fair Trade Commission, representatives of consumers, producers, and dealers. Actually, the marketing order is subject to very strict standards. This is because the government should also protect consumers as well as producers, and the marketing order may violate the principles of fair trade. The marketing order was first implemented for tangerines grown outdoors in 2003. It maintained the price by reducing the supply of tangerines in the market through disposal in production areas and banning of distribution for the smallest fruit and the largest fruit. One of the emerging measures of production supply control is self-help funds. The self-help funds are also called checkoff funds. Like the marketing order or agreement, this is a self-help program. The The self-help funds are strongly empowered by the private sector compared to the marketing order or agreement and are raised voluntarily by farmers. The funds are created to organize farmers who produce identical items and maximize their profits. Farmers voluntarily participate in self-help funds to maximize profits. Naturally, they promote various projects that can enhance their rights and interests with voluntarily raised funds. Also, the government contributes funds in proportion to the amount contributed by farmers to promote voluntary participation in the rights and interests of producer groups. Because the policy funds are supported, the self-help fund should be used for programs of a public nature. There are mandatory self-help funds and two types of voluntary self-help funds. The legal base is the Act on the Special Measures for Development of Agricultural and Fishing Villages enacted in 1990. The voluntary self-help funds are made by the voluntary contribution of farmers and are difficult to be forced. For the mandatory self-help funds, producers of a certain item shall contribute to the fund for distribution. In Korea, the livestock sector has the mandatory self-help funds, but the agricultural sector has the voluntary self-help funds. Because agricultural products have many distribution channels, it is difficult to force self-help funds. The livestock sector has clearly designated slaughterhouses, and it is easy to charge the contribution amount based on the slaughterhouse. As of 2010, self-help funds in the horticultural sector amounted about KRW 18.1 billion with 25 groups and 25 items. Recently, the government has been reinforcing self-help funds for distribution entities and producers in production areas as a key policy. However, the awareness of self-help funds is still low and many free riders benefit without contributing to the funds. The self-help funds are also used for programs similar to the marketing order or agreement. We are focusing on training and publicity to members of the self-help funds and will develop the standard packing and quality regulations and later expand to quantity quota and participant recommendation in the long term. Now let me explain the physical facilitation among the functions of distribution and production areas. As explained before, the tile gap corresponds to the commercial distribution, the information gap to the information distribution, and the rest, including the space gap, time gap, quality gap, and quantity gap, correspond to the physical distribution. Agricultural products are produced for a limited time at a specific time, but consumption is year-round. I can take examples like rice and other grains. Therefore, we have to store the agricultural products during the harvest and allow consumers to consume rice during the off-season. Through the storage function to narrow the time gap between production and consumption, we can get the time utility. Agricultural products are stored in production areas in general and low-temperature warehouses to decrease release amount during harvest and release them during off-season through the release control. Especially, we greatly enhanced the storage function by installing small-sized cold warehouses in farms and mid to large-sized cold warehouses in local agricultural cooperatives, agricultural corporations, crop grounds, local governments, and private cold warehousing companies. The space gap occurs because agricultural products are produced in rural areas and consumed in densely populated cities. To narrow the gap between the production and consumption areas, agricultural products are transported from the production area to the consumer market, such as wholesale market and distribution centers. This creates space utility by narrowing the gap between production and consumption areas. The quantity gap occurs because agricultural products are produced in large quantities but consumed in small quantities. Dozens of apples are harvested from apple trees in the production area, but consumers purchase 1 or 2 apples or 10 to 20 apples at most. The subdivision function narrows this gap. In terms of the quality gap, apples have different colors, sugar content, and so on. Each consumer prefers apples of different sizes, colors, and sugar content. By processing them in general and traditional processing plants in production areas, we can create the form utility by narrowing the quality gap between production and consumption. The commercialization function includes branding and standardization. It enhances added value by differentiating quality, region, place, and image after making agricultural products. Producers, producer groups, and local governments use the branding strategy to differentiate and promote local produce from other producers and local agricultural products, thereby enabling different pricing and purchasing power. Most agricultural brands are individual brands developed and used by various individuals or companies related to the agriculture. Also, local governments and producer groups develop and use co-brands to build a distinct image for a region or its agricultural products. These co-brands are used for various items for quality control and marketing of all agricultural products produced in the region. However, they usually focus on developing agricultural brands and there are lack of efforts to manage and foster brands. Furthermore, there are many unregistered brands whose trademarks are not registered to the Korean Intellectual Property Office, which may make the right recognition difficult in case of the trademark dispute. To build brand value, you need to make efforts for stricter quality control, enough supply quantity, and consistent image enhancement than focusing on making brand names. If you are to develop agricultural brands in Cambodia, I would recommend that you prepare the quality standards and packaging standards for agricultural products together. Thanks to implementing strategies, the number of brands in 4,955 at the end of 2022, which increased by more than 50% from 3,215 in 2021. There are 1,740 registered brands which account for 35.1% of the total brands, and the legal protection mechanism for brands is insufficient. There are 966 co-brands which account for 19.5%, but the registration rate of co-brands reached 60%, which is higher than that of individual brands. The number of agricultural products is estimated to be more than 6,500 in Korea as of 2020. By brand name, there are 4,223 individual brands and 750 co-brands. The rest is estimated to be unregistered brands. This graph shows you the number of brands by region. Regions that produce fruits or rice have more brands. Regions that have many agricultural products that can be commercialized have a higher number of brands. Let me explain the standardization among the commercialization. The standardization of agricultural products allows the APCs, crop groups, and warehouses to jointly sort and pack agricultural products for commercialization. This makes the agricultural quality even and builds the foundation for trading with business names. Standardization serves as the cornerstone for distribution efficiency. The standardization rate was 39.8% in 2000, but now it has risen to 86.1%. By item, it is over 90% in fruits, leaf, root, vegetables, and flowers. Also, the standardization rate reached 100% in some items but decreased again. Although the standardization rate has dropped due to changes in packaging units for marketing purposes of some retailers, there is no decrease in pallet loading efficiency even when they do not fit the agricultural product standards set by the government. It also means that distribution systems using logistic tools such as pallets are becoming common through the standardization of agricultural products. Standardization refers to the proportion of agricultural products released in accordance with the agricultural product standards. If the distribution units of agricultural products are standardized nationwide, this can serve as a basis for facilitating contactless transaction in online spaces in the future. In this regard, Cambodia also needs to pay attention to the standardization of agricultural products. If branding is a matter to be pursued from the perspective of management, standardization should be pursued at a national level. Developing countries can use this as an opportunity to make use of the advantages of late participation in the agricultural distribution sector. If standardization is delayed, industries that do not meet national distribution standards need to reorganize their industrial structure. Thus, you need a strategy to approach standardization separately from other distribution functions. So far, we have studied the functions of distribution in production areas. You can refer to the importance of distribution in production areas and related policies when you establish agriculture-related policies in Cambodia, expand the production-centered viewpoint to include distribution, or expand policy support for commercialization and distribution facilities like the APCs. The distribution functions in production areas would serve as key criteria for producer protection, a stable supply of agricultural products, and price stability. Thank you.